My name is Bob Darrell, and I am alcoholic. Where am I? And only through the grace of a God that I was afraid to believe in, that I've accessed through the 12 steps outlined in our book, good sponsorship, and a persistent and consistent commitment to the primary purpose of helping other drunks. I haven't had a drink or any mind or emotion-altering substance since October 31st, 1978. And for that, I owe you my life. And probably more important is that you have showed me a way to be free. Abstinence without freedom drives some of us so insane that really nice men and women take their own lives sober. And you've given me a way to get free. I am delighted. This has been a great weekend for me. I get to see some old friends. I've made a few new ones. I have gotten to hear so far some great speakers. Dick, I just love Dick. Dick doesn't know that Erica got sober and is now Eric, and he's waiting he'll be waiting for you out in the hospitality. And he got a little twinkle in his eye, and yeah. Welcome. I got to thank Jesse. Jesse picked us up. I came here with one of my sponsees, and he came along. We're doing a little step work. He's relieving me of the bondage of self is what's really going on. And Jesse picked us up at the airport and drove us around, took us to a meeting down in Devine. It was a great meeting. I just had a great time. If you've never ridden with Jesse, it'll get you closer to God. I'm telling you. I know what that thing's for now. You know that on the side. Thank you, Jesse, wherever you are, for your courtesy. And Eric took us to meetings, and has been a great host. I've met a couple people here that are new. I want to welcome you. This is different. This isn't like anything else you've ever been to. And I'm sure we usually don't get to AA until we've been to a lot of other places first. This is different. This is the only place I've ever been to that the worse you are, the more we like you. You'll see I don't know if you're going to do a sobriety countdown. You'll see the person who has burnt their life to the ground most recently get a standing ovation. You won't see that anywhere else. It's the only place I've ever been where you come in, and because of our second tradition, you come in a big shot, and if you're lucky, you work your way up to servant. Everywhere else, it's the other way around. You come in, and hopefully one day you're the boss. It's the opposite here. I was looking at the theme. Let it begin with me. It always does, doesn't it? Yeah, that's the problem. It always does. That's why I have a sponsor, because it always begins right up here. You know, it always begins with me. I have a disease that I didn't know I had for years, and it was killing me piece by piece. And it's the only disease I know of that if you got it, it uses your own mind against you. And we do some pretty crazy things, and we think it's our idea. And I didn't know. A guy in AA years ago, I was just talking to a guy out in the hall about this. I was having bad time. I told him, I said, my head's driving me crazy. And he said to me, you think you are your mind, don't you? You think you're your thoughts, don't you? I said, well, yeah, I guess. He said, you're not your thoughts? You're not your mind? I'm not? He says, no. He says, you know what you are? What? You're the idiot that listens to it. To this day. To this day. I mean, that's why I go to a lot of meetings and I have a sponsor and I pray. I don't. Sometimes I pray. Sometimes I beg because I need help. I need help. In order to stay sober here, I got to survive myself. And that is really what a lot of this is about. I am a guy who has chronic alcoholism. I'm not a problem drinker. I'm not a guy who just drank and got in trouble. I am a guy with chronic alcoholism. And to have chronic alcoholism means that without you, without God, without Alcoholics Anonymous, without service, without helping others, without the whole package here, abstinence has a tendency to drive me insane. But I don't. When I'm getting nuts, I don't think I'm nuts. When I'm getting really sick, I don't think I'm really sick. It looks like you are. I got that gift of noticing what's wrong with people. Oh, there's some people in here that got that gift. I can tell. You already noticed what's wrong with me before I even got up here. And I need you desperately. God speaks to me through you more than He ever speaks to me through my intuition. And not that He hasn't done that on occasion, but isn't it odd that when I need God's direction the most is when I'm so clogged up with me that I can't get it directly. I have to get it through you. I think it'd be great if I could just tap into that thing that promises the God within me, and then I could just get that direct pipeline. And got a problem? Oh, God just told me what to do. But even if I have a problem and I think God just told me what to do, that's when I really need to call my sponsor. When I say that I'm an alcoholic, I'm talking about two things that seem to be present within me that's always have been present. And the first thing is something that I experienced when I first took my first drink at almost 13 years old. And I think that I possibly had the malady of my being, the book refers to it as spiritual malady, before I ever picked up a drink. Almost as if I must have been like a freeze-dried alcoholic waiting for alcohol. And the reason I believe that is that I wasn't right. I covered it up well, but I don't feel like other people look as a kid. There's an awkwardness in me. I worry about stuff that's crazy things. I have conversations in my head as a kid with people that aren't in the room. I live up in here. I often would be in class and at school functions and at parties and things with a feeling that it was all of you and then there's me. And so I became a pretend guy. I became the guy who pretended he was all right. I became the guy who hid behind a facade of bravado and sometimes humor and clownery and all kinds of things. And I pretended like there's nothing wrong. But there was a squirminess inside of me and a discontent and I haven't had alcohol yet, so I'm an alcoholic without the alcohol. And when you have an alcoholic without alcohol, what you got is the ick. And I got the ick. I haven't picked up a drink yet, and I'm already restless. What Silkworth talks about, restless, irritable, and discontent. And the first time I ever drank alcohol, I didn't do it for any other reason except I wanted the approval of the guys, these older guys I'm hanging around with. But something happened to me that day, and I didn't know it. It's funny how your life looks different in hindsight, especially after you get sober. But what happened to me basically that day is it lit me up in a way that I never imagined possible. It made me feel so good and so a part of and so connected to life that the way I would be without that effect from that moment on was never, ever going to be enough again for me. And I didn't know it, but it just getting lit up just kind of moved into the center of my life. And it was almost as if I existed between times to party. And I just lived for it. I mean, I loved it. And in the early days of drinking, if you're an alcoholic like me, in the early days, in the days when the hook is set, man, it is spectacular. It is amazing. It is unbelievable. I have never had anything in my life affect me like that. I mean, I'm a guy, I could go into a dance or a party or later in later years with phony ID into a bar, and I don't fit. I can't talk to anybody. I just seem to be locked up in here looking out. And I can't, I'm dying here. And 4 or 5 drinks and whatever that is between me and you just seems to fall off of me. And I come out and play. 4 or 5 drinks, man, I could start talking to people. About 6 drinks, I'm funny. When I'm 6 drinks, I crack me up. I'm funny. Sober, I'm a mope. I'm a serious mope when I'm sober. I'm a depressive, serious mope when I'm sober. You get me half lit up, man. I can dance when I get high. Now, I can't dance, but you get me half lit up, the rhythm of the universe flows through me, man. I'm telling you. I can shoot pool better than I could ever shoot pool. I'm telling, and that's not an illusion. I really could. I was good when I get loose, and just all of a sudden you can't miss. You're in that kind of like you're in that zone where nothing misses, man. You're just right on. I could talk to girls. I can't talk to girls sober. Oh my! Not only there was a girl, junior high school. I had a crush on her. It was so bad that not only couldn't I talk to her, I couldn't even look at her. If she was sitting on that side of the class, I couldn't even look that way. It would just make me crazy. I couldn't even look over there. And I kept thinking about her. Oh, man. Went to a dance and I psyched myself up. A guy had showed me a couple dance steps, and I'm going to go to this dance. I'm going to ask her to dance. And I already knew what college our kids were going to go to. And I get to that dance, and I can't do it. I can't. I am so locked up with fear, I can't ask her. And I ended up in the parking lot with a couple guys that had a bottle of 151 rum. Any 151 rum drinkers here? Anybody? Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. If you're new and you raised your hand, you're not sure if you're an alcoholic. There is no social drinking of 151 rum. Or Everclear. I loved 151 rum. Oh, that gets you downtown now, man. I mean, I love that. And I come back into that dance under the power of 151 rum. I just sauntered right up to her with a suave fare and a confidence that's beyond anything I could imagine. This is like I'm a guy out of some movie or something. You know what I mean? I just started talking to her, and I had an out-of-body experience. It was like I heard myself talking to her. And I'm saying words to her. I don't know where they're coming from. Like I'm channeling somebody or something, man. It's amazing. And I remember thinking, listening to myself and what I'm saying to her, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to work. Oh. Where does that come from? I'm tapping into something here. It was amazing. Is it any wonder that I would spend the rest of a couple decades almost, a decade and almost 2 decades, chasing this every chance I could get? See, because the problem with alcoholism is twofold. One is even in the days when it works, we always end up getting sober again. I'd always end up being sober again, and I'd be back to being me. And my big secret is I never liked that much. I always liked myself. And this is crazy. as the disease started progressing and I started hurting people that I loved, and I started ruining opportunities, and as I started burning my life to the ground, even through the worst years, I still liked myself better when I was half lit up than I ever liked myself sober. And I can't even get my mind around that because I know, I'm not stupid, I know what I'm doing to myself. But I ain't no good sober. I don't know why. And in when I was about 20 years old, I ended up in my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was in an institution, and I'm in this institution, and I'm in a lot of trouble because I got this thing that's wrong with me, and I'd been in juvenile courts, I'd been in a lot of trouble, and I don't understand what's happening. It looks like bad luck and a society that just tries to curtail real free thinkers. But the reason I'm really in a lot of trouble, and I'm intermittently in a lot of trouble, is that I love to party, and when I go out to party, I can't shut her down when you should. You know, I always go to... I don't have an off switch. I party with some guys that have an off switch. They'll get really drunk, and then, okay, go home. I don't got that off switch. I don't just get drunk. I get drunk. When I'm drunk, there's some stuff seems like a good idea. It's not a good idea. Oh, man. And I'm in this treatment center, and I'm 20 years old, and they sent me to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which it was so bizarre to me. You could have put me on a lie detector and asked me point blank, Bob, is there any way in the world you could possibly have alcoholism? I bet you that I would have said no, and I bet you it would have said I was telling the truth. And yet I had alcoholism. I possibly would have admitted to being a drug addict. There was a little panache in that. I mean, but I'm not an alcoholic. I had family members that were alcoholics, and I hated them. I'm hell-bent not to be like them. There's rock stars that are drug addicts. I am not an alcoholic. But I had alcoholism, and I went to this meeting, and oh my God, the people in there were like in their 40s. Jeez! Yeah, of course they're in AA. Yeah, they probably listen to Lawrence Welk too. Yeah, I know. I remember sitting there just looking around thinking, oh my God, it hasn't come to this, has it? I love Joe McQueenie, who died. Oh God, he used to say, I just really get this as a musician. He said, he felt, when he ended up in AA, he said he felt like he joined the Salvation Army band. Yeah, I get that, man. I get that. Oh, yeah. Alcohol, it's horrible. And I didn't get nothing. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm in trouble, but I am not an alcoholic. But I got that phenomenon of craving, and yet I got the other part, the spiritual malady, which drives me insane. So insane that after 3 or 4 rehabs, because I'm not stupid, I get what's going on. I'm sleeping on guys' couches. I got guys I went to high school with that are buying homes. I mean, I get the picture, and I'm smarter than them too. I get the picture. So I'm the guy who starts hitting these horrendous, horrible bottoms, where I, in desperation, sometimes with sobbing, with tears in my eyes, I will swear to myself and mean it with everything in me, I'm never touching that again. I'm never touching that again. And 7 or 8 months later, I'm back at it. Now, you do that once or twice, you're a knucklehead. You do that time and time again, there's something really wrong with you. And I started thinking, man, there's something really wrong with me. And I don't know what it is. And I keep ending up at AA meetings. Now, I'm not an alcoholic, but every time I end up drinking, I end up in rooms where all the alcoholics are grouped for some reason. I don't see the cause and effect in that. But I don't think I'm an alcoholic. And the reason I don't think I'm an alcoholic is that in times of desperation, I would be vanned to some AA meeting, with a bunch of guys in the halfway house of the treatment center, and I would sit there and I would listen to you. Because I'm having this battle with myself. I'm thinking, man, I got to change this stuff. I can't go on like this. And so I listen to you. And I watch you. And it becomes very, very apparent to me that whatever's wrong with me, for God's sakes, is not the same thing that's wrong with you. My God, I'm not drinking. I got a couple months here. I'm going to your meetings. I'm talking to the counselors. I'm trying to talk about my feelings. I'm doing what appears to me to be what you're doing. Now, I don't know what you're doing, really. You're doing a whole bunch of other stuff I don't know about. And I'm sober and going to your meetings, and I don't feel at all like you guys seem to be. I stopped drinking, and after a while, I feel like I'm just doing time here, man. It's bad on me. I get these depressions that are just brutal. Isn't it? It's odd. When I say I'm alcoholic, that means a lot to me today. It means a lot more than it did 32 and a half years ago. I'm alcoholic in every area of my life. I feel my feelings alcoholically. I don't just get depressed. I get into it. I get into it to the point where suicide looks like a dramatic yet useful end to things. I mean, I get into it. I don't just get angry. I get insane. I like a dog with a slipper, plotting your death or revenge. I have endless conversations in my head with people, and that just, you said this, and I said this, and then you said this, and then I'll tell you that, and then you'll say this, and then I'll hit you with that, and you'll be broken. And you'll realize how wrong you had been. You know, there's a line in our book that it says, and first time I didn't believe this. It says that we are extreme examples of self-will run riot. Though we usually don't think so, do we? No. I think all people have feelings like I have and thoughts and stuff, but they don't do it alcoholically. They're not extreme. My daughter is not an alcoholic. She is one of the most... and it ain't through me. She's one of the most well-adjusted people I've ever met. She was breaking up a relationship she'd been in for a while. She's 23. Kind of sad. And she comes to her dad. And I'm there for her. I love you, Kate. You know, I'm sorry you're going through this. You want me to kill him? No? Okay. No, I mean, you know, she laughs when I say stuff like that. She doesn't know I'm serious. She knows I'm not, Well, I see her about a week later. We're having dinner. And so I said, you know, I'm kind of trying to be there for her. I said, how's it going? She said, oh, it's good, Dad. I said, I'm just going out on a date in a couple days with some guy. Huh. So you act like you're kind of over it. Well, yeah, Dad, you got to go on. You got to... I said, Kate, you couldn't possibly have gotten enough mileage out of that yet. And she thinks I'm funny, right? But she won't take it to the extreme. She won't do what I do. I'm an extreme example of self-will run riot. I sponsor a lot of guys. There's a period somewhere between about 2 years usually and 5 or 6 years when a guy I'm sponsoring, he's been through the steps, done a lot of stuff, he's sponsoring guys, he'll come to me with this awful look on his face, and he'll go, I'm getting worse. I'm getting more self-centered than I've ever been. I'm getting more self-centered. I said, no, you've been worse than this all along. You just didn't think so. We are extreme examples of self-will. No, we don't think so. Now you're starting to think so. It's not nice. They say that the truth will set you free, but it'll ruin your day first. I'm telling you. So I am the guy who doesn't think I'm an alcoholic. And my mother I had good parents. I really did. I am not. I have often enviously listened to people who have bad childhoods and thought, God, I wish I had that kind of childhood. And I could blame somebody for how weird I am. Don't get me wrong. I tried to blame my parents, but they just loved me. They were just nice people. My mother worked for mental health. She was a therapist. Because of her, and my father was very, very successful politically and very connected. They got me in to see some therapists that, I mean, you had to be like a movie star to see some of these guys. They'd written books and had institutes and stuff, and I'm going there and I'm really trying, and I'm going there because I don't have what you have, and I'm not. I mean, I get that drinking is a part of the problem, but there's something else wrong with me because when I get sober, I ain't right. And I'm so depressive, and I'm so full of anxiety, and I think the worst thing of all, and I would because I'm a guy and I don't want to, I can't say this to anybody, is the loneliness, the pathetic, awful, awful loneliness that I just don't fit anywhere, and I can be around people who I know intellectually love me. But I'm alone, and it's painfully alone, and so I try all this stuff. I took a lot of medications. I went through a lot of therapy. I primal screamed. I'm ashamed to tell you. I've been hypnotized and regressed back into my childhood, thinking that even though I had what seemed like a loving, good childhood, somebody must have damaged me somewhere. Well, I felt damaged. I mean, somebody must have done this to me. Never found out what it was. All the therapy, all the diagnoses were misdiagnoses. I've read the book on diagnosis of stuff. I understand why. I looked like that. I looked like clinically depressed. I looked like free-floating anxiety and panic disorder. I looked like that stuff. But what I had was a spiritual malady called alcoholism. Our books, the great hope of Alcoholics Anonymous is that if the spiritual malady is overcome, that even I can straighten out mentally and physically. Even I. See, this spiritual malady that I have just drives me insane. And it drives me so insane, I return to drinking because it's the only relief of this sickened, unfortified, undisconnected spirit that I've ever found. The problem that I'm incurring as the disease progresses is that the medicine's not working right anymore. And that's horrible. Because now, in the last couple years, now I'm drinking, but I ain't lit up no more. Now I'm drinking, I'm going on crying jags. Now I'm drinking and feeling sorry for myself. Now I'm as pathetic and as lonely and as depressed and full of self-pity, sober as I am when I'm drinking. I'm getting into an area where there's no light here because drinking has become kind of horrible. And not drinking feels like I'm doing time, and it's kind of horrible. And I'm at that place it talks about in A Vision for You. We get to a place we can't imagine life with it, not like this. At the end of my drinking, the last couple of years, I would start on a run out of a halfway house or something, and no time at all. I don't even bathe anymore. The truth is, I don't bathe because I don't care. Once the funds ran out of the party, now I'm the guy who I just seek to blot me out. This is not fun. This is pathetic. I'm the guy, if you're kind to me and you let me sleep on your couch at 3 a.m, I'm running out of Richard's Wild Irish Rose, so I'm on your telephone calling ex-girlfriends at 3 a.m. and crying into the phone, we should have got married. Oh, God. Call Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd call suicide prevention. I'd call all these crazy I'd call my parents at 3. They eventually changed their number and stopped taking my calls. Because I'd call him at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you must have raised me wrong. I'm so messed up. Oh, God, it was just horrible. I got wet pants a lot. Because I drink for oblivion, and I pass out. My bodily functions don't care. You know, you're 3 years old, diaper rash is cute. It ain't cute in your 20s, I'm telling you. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. I got bad tremors. I remember the tremors, and I remember the embarrassment around them. I'm in my 20s, and I'm in these bars in the morning because I can't wait to 10 o'clock for the state's liquor store to open up, and the bar opens at 7, and I'm there at 6:30 hoping they open early because I got the bad tremors. I remember a bartender catching him out of the corner of my eye, watch me shake, and that look like it was like pity or something. I hate that. The embarrassment of that. I got sores that don't heal because I don't eat. I'm not against eating. I'm just not eating up my drinking money. You know what I mean? When it comes to choice, a half gallon of wine or a McDonald's loses every time. If I eat it all, it's because somebody felt sorry for me and bought me a cheeseburger or something. This is not fun. This is pathetic. And yet, even though that is my reality, you get me sober 6 months in a halfway house, and abstinence starts to drive me insane. I love what Silkworth says. He says we become restless, irritable, discontent. But you can't see it, can you? Sometimes you can, but most of the time it goes right below the horizon and just kind of gnaws at you. The ick. It kind of gnaws at you. I remember a counselor one time asking me, he says, I guess I didn't look like I was happy, joyous, and free. And this counselor, this halfway house, he says to me, he says, Bob, what's wrong? And I'm looking at him, and I don't know. I don't know what to say to him. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what's wrong. It's just that nothing's right. I feel stuck up here. I feel stuck with these crazy thoughts and these emotions, and I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. And I eventually always drink again. I eventually always get to a point before the obsession to drink ever returns for me. What happens something first is I start to yearn for freedom. I just want to bust out. That's all. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to hurt nobody no more. I don't want to ruin my life. I don't want to end up on the streets again, walking all night long because it's winter and you can't even sit down. You'll freeze to death. I don't want any of that. But my God, I got to get free here. And here's how this disease uses my own mind against me. Silkworth says it best when he says, after a time, I can't differentiate the true from the false. I just told you about the truth, the reality of my drinking and its patheticness. 6 months, 8 months sober, I start to fantasize that I can drink like I drank when I was 18 and 20 years old again. I can't see all the promises that I've made to myself when I meant them, that I'm never going to touch this. I can't see the times I've been drinking and feeling sorry for myself and crying in that horrible loneliness. I can't see anything really except the hope of relief. A relief that doesn't even exist anymore. And I start drinking and it's pathetic and it's horrible. And in 1978, I was sober a number of months in a place that I was put in there by the courts. I was supposed to stay in there a year or else do 2 years in prison. And I couldn't make the year. I couldn't. I tried. I really tried. I couldn't take it. I went crazy and had to drink. And I'm in the park. Now, I don't know if I'm into this run 2 or 3 days, but I know the tremors are back. And I come to, and it's pathetic. And earlier that year, a doctor had given me a complete physical because I tried to explain to him that my real problem was a brain tumor. Well, I'd read about that. Anyway, he explained to me, no, you don't have a brain tumor. You have a bleeding ulcer and a hemorrhoid. Well, I had this unexplained bleeding, and one of the 7 warning signs of cancer is unexplained. I thought, well, and I come to, but in the physical, he said something to me afterwards. I was in my 20s. He said, well, you're young enough, and physically the deterioration is somewhat, but not that bad yet. He said that, but the course you're on, it's going to kill you, but it may take 5 more years. You may take you 5 more years to die. And I came to in the park, and I'm thinking about what that doctor said. 5 more years. And I remember thinking to myself, I ain't doing 5 more days of this. I ain't doing it. I can't do this anymore. And I got up enough courage to go to a bridge, and I'm going to take my own life. I'm not afraid of dying. But what I was afraid of and why I am here today, and I think some of you have figured out it was an unsuccessful suicide. I think you probably... The reason I couldn't effectively kill myself, I'm not afraid of dying. What I'm afraid of is I'm going to screw it up like I've screwed up everything in my life. And instead of dying, I'm going to end up paralyzed from the neck down in a charity ward, and I'll be laying there for 50 years, probably sober, listening to my head tell me what a piece of crap I am as members of AA parade their newcomers through the hospital room. And I get to hear them go, well, this is what happens to you when you don't work our wonderful 12 steps. And I'm paralyzed. I can't even give them the 1-finger salute. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of living like this. Most of us, you can't scare an alcoholic with death. People say to us all the time, all right, keep drinking, it's going to kill you. By Tuesday? I know a guy that drank himself to death. He was in and out of AA for 20 years before he actually died. Oh my God, it takes a long time. It's like being kicked to death by rabbits. It just goes on and on and on. And by the time you're dead, everyone you've ever loved hates you. By the time you're dead, you've been wishing you had the guts to kill yourself for a while now. And I got on this bridge and I couldn't do it. I collapsed. I think I like that word, collapse. And it seemed like something inside of me collapsed. And I didn't know it, but I ended up in a detox in Las Vegas, Nevada, because I'm running from the 2 years in prison. And I end up in this hospital, and the Buddhists say that when the student's ready, the teachers appear. And I didn't know it. I didn't know that I had just enough of me kicked out of me that for the first time I could listen to somebody without picking apart what you're saying. See, I got this... I'm a pathetic guy with this huge ego. I'm the guy that fits the old adage, you can always tell an alcoholic, you just can't tell him much. Right? I'm the guy who knows... I'm 3 weeks sober sitting in an AA meeting. I know what's wrong with everybody in the room. It's pathetic. There was a great psychiatrist who studied us for a couple decades, and he said something I thought was brilliant. He said the reason guys like me, we don't get any better, even though sometimes guys like me will stay sober for decades, but nothing really changes, is that we're so ego-entrenched that I can't listen to anybody to hear anything new. I can only listen to see how I'm already right. And I was like that. If you said something I agreed with, you were brilliant. Everybody else is an idiot, right? And if you're like that, you're a closed system. And if you're a closed system, nothing new gets in. If nothing new gets in, nothing changes. If nothing changes, you know how the bumper sticker is, nothing changes. That's why alcoholism, untreated alcoholism kind of feels like you're stuck. One of the worst things that happens in the progression of the disease for me, as in the years go by, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then it gets the worst of all, it gets the same. It's the same pathetic, lonely, horrible depressingness when I'm drunk, and it's kind of like that when I'm sober, and I ain't no good in either state. And it's the same. I can't tell you how. There's a word I used to beat myself up with, and I bet you I said it to myself 50 times. I'd be in a detox, or I'm in the bathroom throwing my guts up, or I'm in county jail waiting to find out why I was arrested. And I'd be looking around, and I'd say, again, Bob? Again? Again? It was like what the... cunning, baffling, powerful. Again? And I had no idea what was wrong with me. The psychiatrist didn't help. The medications didn't help. I did everything. I tell you, when it says in the book that no human power, the only way a guy wired like I am is ever going to really be convinced in my innermost self to that, is I had to try everything that came up on the radar and failed. And failed. I ain't ready for God until everything fails. And I got a problem with God. First of all, He's got my job, I suspect. I don't... Well, I never thought that consciously, but I kind of had that position in life. I'm always playing God in my head. I don't know I'm playing God. That's what my sponsor used to say to me. I'm one of those kind of guys that I'm a noticer. I know there's some other noticers in here. Walk into your home group, just notice. You notice. It's just, you notice what there's out of line people. You notice them, don't you? And I notice them. I notice them at work. I notice that people come in late, don't get caught. I noticed the 13 steppers in AA. I really don't like them. They're getting more action than I am. I don't say that. No, don't say that. I resent everybody looks like they're happier. If you better looking than me, now if you're richer than me, if you have a nicer girlfriend than me, if you seem to have more friends than me, now I won't resent you for that. But I'll start looking at you until I find a reason to resent you, and it's really because of that, right? Because I got to legitimize, and I don't just. I'm a global resenter. I got to take a resentment to a global level. You know what I mean? When I get a real resentment about, it's not just what you did. It's not me, because I'm selfless. It's not me. You're ruining all of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got to make it on a big scale, right? To justify my hating you. And really, you just seemed like you were happier than I was. You know? But I found something. I'm good at that. I think I could have. You put me with Mother Teresa for a half hour, and I'll find something wrong with her. You know, I'm that guy. I'm just that guy. And I get sober in 1978, and after this failed suicide attempt, and there was a man who used to bring meetings into the detox, and to this day, he's probably my best friend. And I asked him to be my sponsor. He's old now. He's over 85 years old. I brought him down here. If I ran into you at the International, the old timer that I was with, that was him. He's a wonderful man. And he did something that we do here. He put his own life aside, and he had a big life. I mean, a big life. And he put it aside a couple times a week to come into a detox that often no one ever got sober out of. And he would come in there week after week on the hope that he'd catch one guy like me. And he did the magic thing we do. He just talked about himself. And I had had enough of me beaten out of me that as he shared his own experience, and he talked about a suicide attempt that he'd had and all this stuff, and I just sat there and it washed over me. And I sat there and I found myself nodding my head and thinking to myself secretly, my God, I'm like these people. And I didn't know if that was good news or bad news. And I watched him. You never, the greatest thing that ever happens in your life is not what you believe or think or feel. It is what you do. You never know who's watching you, because I watched this guy and he came in there twice. I watched him in the hall. I watched him interact with the staff. I watched him interact with the other members of AA that came in there, and I watched, and he was kind and he laughed a lot. He laughed a lot. Matter of fact, he looked like he was having a better time sober than I had when alcohol really worked. And I dared to hope, a hope that I'm unworthy to dare. I've hurt a lot of people. I'm not a good guy. I don't deserve nothing here. But I dared to hope that maybe if I asked him to help me, and I did everything these people in AA did, maybe what happened to them could happen to me. And I asked this guy to be my sponsor, and I said, I'll do anything you ask me to do. Oh, I regretted that one later. They got stuff to do. They got lists of stuff. They're just like waiting for somebody to... It's like, oh my God, they want me to start doing service. They wanted me to start... I'm only out of the hospital a week. And they want me to bring meetings back in there. They want me to get on the 12-step list. They're starting a meeting in the state penitentiary. They wanted me to go in there. I didn't have enough tattoos. They wanted me to do all this crazy stuff, 12-step calls. I remember saying to this guy, I said, I know what you're saying, but don't you think I should work on me for a while? He said, work on you? You've done quite enough of that. Stop it. Stop it. Go help somebody. When he said that, I thought, whoa, I have done quite enough working on me. I mean, if I could have fixed me, I'd have been fixed by now. I love that delusion that it says we're victims of in the book, the delusion that I can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world by managing well. The reason, if you're new, the reason that's a delusion, step back from yourself for a minute. Step back from us as a demographic for a minute. Has there ever been a demographic on the planet that spent more money, more time, more obsessive energy on trying to make themselves satisfied and happy as we have? And the end result is, will you sponsor me? You get that? Do you get that? For God's sake, stop it. Stop. If you could have fixed yourself, you'd have done it years ago. And they want me to start helping others. And oh, man. I started doing it, and I didn't know that it would save my life. I didn't work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous out of the big book until I was 4 years sober, even though I did two sort of soirees into them. At the end of my first year, I wrote an inventory that was 40 pages of everything I was ashamed of and all my deep, dark secrets, and I was very honest. But nothing changed. The book says that we're trying to uncover the things and be rid of the things that are blocking us. And I was still blocked. I was still full of me. Nothing changed, really. Later, when I was about 3 years sober, I did an inventory out of the book, The 12 Steps and the 12 Traditions. There's 30-some questions in there. I wrote a bit on each one, answered each one. I wrote close to a page on each of the 7 deadly sins, and it was very intellectually stimulating. But nothing changed, not really. I didn't get rid of anything except some ink and paper. And when I was suffering from alcoholism, this is really odd, and I like, there may be someone like this in the room. I'll tell you, I was going to 15 meetings a week. I had every service commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous that was on the table. I was a DCM. I was on 2 convention committees. I was taking 2 meetings into hospitals and institutions every week, plus going to a total of 15 meetings a week. I had a sponsor. I was trying to help people, but I wasn't very good at it because you can't transmit something you haven't got. And I'm dying. It's almost like I'm having a hard. It's like I'm trying to outrun my alcoholism, and it's catching up to me, and I'm starting to suffer from a lot of depression again and anxiety, and I'm really. I was very serious. I was so judgmental at that time. And right. Oh my! These aren't just judgments. I'm right here about all this stuff. And I am so full of myself. The guy who later became my sponsor, I hated him. One guy said, egomaniac. Oh, so you know him pretty well, do you? No, I just know things like this. I resented people I didn't know anything about. I was full of myself. And I was dying, and I'd been to a Joe and Charlie seminar, and actually, this is so bizarre. I took a guy I sponsor. I sat down with the big book and him and showed him, and went through it line by line in the section on step 4, and showed him how to do a 4-step. That taught me more than I saw stuff in trying to show him that I couldn't see in trying to show me. There's a magical thing that happens when we try to help another. You will learn more about AA trying to help somebody else find out about AA than you'll ever learn trying to find out about AA. I don't know what that's about, but I learned how to do a 4-step helping this guy. I remember he had a lot of resentments, and we're on that page 66, the page that has all the death threats, be free of this stuff or it kills you. It's going to cut you off from the sunlight of the spirit, and your private parts are going to shrivel up, and all that. It's a horrible page. It just batters you with boom, 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 boom. And at the bottom of the page it says, "Oh, now that we've told you that, by the way, you can't do much about it. Can't wish it away any more than alcohol." And where I'm reading that, and the guy looks at me and he says, "What do I do?" I don't know. I got nothing here. I haven't done this stuff, I don't know here. And the next line says, it was like it had neon on it. It says, "This was our course." And I read it and I go, "Oh, this is our course right here." like I knew something, And it says that I must make a change in perception, a realization. My home group's called Connect the Dots. And, I got to connect the dots with something here. Just as I had to connect the dots in my innermost self that I was a real alcoholic. And what I'm supposed to realize is something that a self-centered guy like me doesn't realize very easily. I'm so vested in my judgments. And that's to come off the high horse, and the book says to realize how the person that, even though I didn't like their symptoms, which is column number 2, the things they did, and how they disturbed me, column number 3, the pocketbook, pride, etc., that to realize that this person was perhaps like me, spiritually sick. Like me. What's that mean? That means I got to get humble enough and honest enough with myself to see myself in that person, to see that if I'd been hurt like they were hurt, or raised like they were raised, or afraid like they were afraid, can I see how I could have done to someone else what they did to me? Could I see that this smug superiority that I feel within the resentment, that it's an illusion? And what started happening is when I started doing this myself, it was an amazing thing happened to me, because all of a sudden I'm getting these real shifts in perception and of people, and I'm starting to see myself in them. And people who I had really heavy cases built on in AA, and a lot of, by this time, I'm sober over 4 years, so a lot of my resentment list is people in AA. And I'm starting to see myself in them. And people who I had cases built against, I was actually starting to develop some compassion for them. I get you. Like, God, I've done that. I've been that's me. I got you. And the word compassion comes from two Latin words, cum and passio, meaning pain. It means I can sit with your pain. I get you. I get you. I get you. And people I resented, all of a sudden, I feel like I wish there was something I could do to help them. Our book says we grow in understanding and effectiveness. That's the deal here. I thought it was all about me. And it's not. It never was all about me. You're trying to make me into a guy that's going to be able to help God's kids. That's it. That's the whole deal here. That is our primary number one purpose. Most people that are new, I know what your primary purpose is. Of course, it's you. Of course it is. Of course it is. I had great teachers in AA. They told me, they said things like, you don't have to say that you did drugs. Well, but I think it's important. No, listen, trust me. If you have alcoholism, we pretty much know that you didn't do well with drugs either. You don't have to say that. You don't have to introduce yourself like that. We get that. It's in the package here. You don't have to say I'm an alcoholic and self-centered. We know you are. We get that. You don't have to say I'm an alcoholic and I've had problems with relationships. Yeah, we get that too. We know that. When you say you're alcoholic, you're describing a condition of mind and body and spirit. We get you. We know. You know why we know? Because we know we're properly armed with information about ourselves. I've had people in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I've been in a lot of trouble, it's almost like they reached right down inside of me. It was as if they knew stuff about me, and they're telling me stuff about me that's going on at that moment that I don't even know. And when they're saying it, it's resonant. I'm going, yeah. There's a thing that happens to us when we get together in rooms like this. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. It's maybe God himself. Somewhere it says that when two or more of us come together for the purpose of recovery, something will be in the midst. I've sat in meetings and I've listened to you share things about you that I've never heard before, and it's hit me. And not only is it right on and it's true, I've never heard it before, and yet I feel like I knew it all my life. And I never knew it until that second. Because God's talking right through the collective consciousness in here, which is the power. When this room empties up, there's a feeling in here that occurs when we come together. It's not in this room when we leave. And it is not the sum of the parts. It is greater than that. There's a spirit in Alcoholics Anonymous, in a group that is united behind the primary purpose of helping other drunks. There's a spirit there. There's a selflessness. There's God. You can feel it. I feel it in my home group. I just had an experience. I had a bad day a couple weeks ago. It's one of those days where I was just full of myself and worrying about stuff. And I walked in. I was kind of in a half-assed depression, I guess. And walked into that room, and the Spirit just took me. Next thing I know, I'm shaking guys' hands, talking to newcomers. I'm laughing. And I told one of the guys I talked to on the phone, I told him I was having a bad day, came up to me and he says, "You don't look like you're having a bad day." And when he said that, I thought, I'm not. What happened to me? See, I came with you and was relieved of the bondage of self. And that's what you do for me. That's why our 12th step is so important. I drank alcohol basically because alcohol relieved me of the bondage of self. It was very good at it in the early days. And then the progressive nature of the disease, it turned on me and it stopped doing that. And I was more wrapped up in me at the end than I'd ever was. And I couldn't get free. And you showed me how to get free. If you're new, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I will say something to you you may not believe, but I got to tell you this. I'm not trying to sell you nothing here. You're free to do whatever you want to do. Matter of fact, I'm not a recruiter for AA. I often think we're overcrowded. But if you suffer from alcoholism the way I suffered from alcoholism, and at one time alcohol was magic for you, I'm going to tell you something you may not believe. You throw yourself into this thing 100%, where your whole life is helping other drunks, and everything you do is to that end. You will find the most amazing thing you've ever found. You will find that Alcoholics Anonymous will set you free the same way alcohol one time set you free. And if it doesn't do that, I'm a dead man. Thank you for my life.